I'll go through once very important, very important, uh, frequently asked questions area. I will once quickly recap. So if you have a pen and paper, try to note them down or underline if you received your notes. If you
Yeah,
received your
Ravinder sir, good
sir,
evening. Sorry to interrupt you.
good,
So, may I
uh,
share the screen for you, or do you want to continue the class without any screen?
kindly share. Most of our students haven't received material, so that it's better if you share screen share.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I will do that. Uh,
So in the historical events, we discussed Chartist movement, that is right to vote movement from 1838. So Reforms Act 1867 and another Reforms Act 1884 and Factory Act 1833, 1842, Mines and Calories Act. These are the important historical events and Hungry 40s. We discussed Hungry 40s, potato blight disease. Okay, and very important is a great exhibition took place in 1851. Okay, so there was a conflict between science and religion. We discussed that wandering between two worlds. One is dead, the other powerless to be born. A famous quote by Matthew Arnold. So it is age of prose, realism, age of reforms, all we discussed. And Darwinian critics, those are science critics. The growth of science increased during this era. So most importantly, this book you have to remember the age of publication, 1859, that is Darwin's Origin of Species, which marked the development of science, particularly biology, and man's uh, evolution from lower species. The theme of this Origin of Species is that one. So man evolved from lower species. So next, Victorian Compromise, G.K. Chesterton, Prince of Paradox, and literary events. We have Oxford Movement, that is the Church, Anglican Church to Roman Catholic Church thought. That is next. In this, two important persons are there: John Henry Newman, John Keble. Next, aesthetic movement, art for art's sake, and in this we have two important figures. Walter Pater, his important book is The Renaissance, 1873. This is very important book, The Renaissance, 1873. Please note it down. And the main figure of aesthetics movement is Oscar Wilde. Next, pre-Raphaelite movement, a group of seven uh, people, and it is formed by D.G. Rossetti, and their periodical name is The Germ, was established in 1850, and here we discussed in this pre-Raphaelite movement that Buchanan, Robert Buchanan, Fleshy School of Criticism, and Stealthy School by D.G. Rossetti in response to Buchanan's. So that we discussed. Next, we have important poets Alfred Lord Tennyson. So uh, he was a famous poet laureate who succeeded Wordsworth in the year 1850. The same year he published his greatest work in memoriam, the elegy written on the death of his friend A.H.H. Arthur Henry Hallam. Okay. Next, Mariana connection with Shakespeare's Measure for Measure. Mariana, Measure for Measure. You remember it. Next, mm, Lotus Eater, uh, inspired by his trip to Spain, Pyrenees Mountains. When he visited Pyrenees Mountains, he was inspired by that scenery, and he wrote that poem. Two voices, and frequently asked question. Ulysses, already told you, a poem in blank verse. Ulysses, a novel by James Joyce, the landmark novel in 1922. It was published. It is the greatest work of modernism. So that is. But this one is a poem, a blank verse poem by Tennyson. You have to remember Tennyson's work is a blank verse poem. Next one is James Joyce. Ulysses is a novel which was published in 1922. This is very, very important. So that much is enough. And next, Charge of the Light Brigade, Crimean War, related to Crimean War. The Princess, a medley, a feminist poem. Next, The Idylls of the King. So there are 12 numbers uh, poems. Next, Locksley Hall. It is a futuristic poem. Futuristic poem. 60 years after. Its a subtitle is 60 years after. So it is a futuristic poem. Next, Break, Break, Break. This is another elegy. Poet's longing for his a friend. So he's mourning for his friend. Next, Crossing the Bar. This is also philosophical mourning. Death is considered as the crossing the bar. Okay. Next, The Dreamer, the last poem uh, by Tennyson. Okay. So, Defense of Lucknow, Sepoy Mutiny, relation, connection with Sepoy Mutiny. So, in this way, this is enough. This much is enough for you about Tennyson. Okay. This is a quick revision. Next, Robert Browning. And in Robert Browning, the master of dramatic monologue, Pauline, is a work, important work. Subtitle is A Fragment of a Confession, 1833. It is a tribute to Shelley. It's a major work. So it is the embodiment of many of his own adolescent passions and anxieties. It is a short poem. Next one is Paracelsus, a Swiss physician. It is also a dramatic monologue based on the life of a Swiss physician. Next, Sardello. We discussed already. Italian poet, 12th century Italian poet Sardello. So, these who is Sardello kind of questions are asked previously. So, better concentrate. Bells and Pomegranate. It's a collection of his dramatic monologues. And in this, we have My Lost Duchess, mm, importantly, Porphyria's Lover. Next, uh, Men and Women collection, 51 poems. So, Fra Lippo Lippi. Next, Toccata of Galuppi. Toccata is a piano. So, Andrea del Sarto, a faultless painter. Next, uh, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Sorry. The Ring and the Book, a long dramatic narrative poem. So, which is twice as big as the Paradise Lost. So, these are the important works of Robert Browning. Next, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So, already we discussed Elizabeth Barrett Browning, important work, sonnets from Portugal. Before that, Prometheus Unbound and The Cry of the Children and Casaguri Windows. Italian about it is about Italian freedom movement. Aurora Lee, Aurora Lee, important work, mostly autobiographical. This is next poems before Congress. Another important work is The Barretts of Wimpole Street. It is a play based on the romance between Robert Browning and Barrett Browning and her father's unwillingness to their marriage, which was written by Rudolph Bissaire. Rudolph Bissaire. Next, Matthew Arnold. So, famous poet as well as critic of this Victorian period. Next, eldest son of Dr. Thomas Arnold. I told you already, Thomas Arnold has a place in the book Eminent Victorian. Remember that. Never get confusion. Not Matthew Arnold. Thomas Arnold is the famous eminent Victorian. Uh, Headmaster of rugby school. Okay. So rugby chapel. Elegy on his father's death. Next, stanzas from the Grandi Charterius. Important work. In this only we have the famous quote, wandering between two worlds. Next, Sohrab and Rustum, an episode, 1853. Empedicles of Etna, Dover Beach, Merope, a tragedy. His elegy is Thyrsis on the death of Arthur Clough. Then next, very, very important work is Memorial Verses, 1850. It is a mourning for the death of Wordsworth, Goethe, and Byron. These three you remember. Memorial versus previous question. Net question only, not set. So prose essays in criticism. Essay, an essay on mind by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, I told you. Essay on man, Alexander Pope. Essays in criticism, Matthew Arnold. Avoid your confusion. Next, culture and anarchy. So important essay in political and social criticism. In this only, we have the division of society into three groups. Those are barbarians, Philistines, and populace. So these three you remember. So very important question area. Next one is Hellenism and Herbaism. So these two are also important. Hellenism means knowing, Herbaism means doing. So literature and dogma. So many are there, but these are very, very important. Up to here, we discussed. Next, regarding uh, Pre-Raphaelite movement, Dante Gabriel Rossetti's works, the Blessed Damozel, the Blessed Damozel, and Christina Rossetti's work is already told you. Goblin Market and other poems, a well-known work. Questioning area. Goblin Market. In this, we have two characters, hmm? Laura and Lizzie. Lara and Lizzie. So you remember that one. Next, Morris. William Morris' important work is Earthly Paradise. Earthly Paradise. News from Nowhere. News from Nowhere. Okay. So A.C. Swinburne, uh, Songs Before Sunrise. Songs Before Sunrise. Atlanta in Caledon. Or sorry, Atlanta in Caledon. Atlanta in Caledon. So Songs Before Sunrise. Pseudo Shelley. He was called as Pseudo Shelley by Matthew Arnold. Okay, this you remember. Next, these are the important poets and their important works. Victorian poetry is finished. Okay, next prose. So, in case of prose, let us discuss Thomas Carlyle. Some of you haven't received material, so my request is better you maintain a book, running notes book, so that it will be useful for you, so that I will be get satisfied. Okay. So are you ready with pen and paper? Points also you can insert in this. You have paper. You have a space on the top of the page and the bottom of the page also. If it is needed, you please. Prose writers of Victorian era. Prose writers of Victorian era. Okay, this is today's session. Till now, we have discussed only revised. You have all the participants RRR. You follow. Read, revise, reread. You follow this formula and you will get success. Okay, RRR. So Thomas Carlyle, actually Chart, Chartism is an essay. Chartism is an essay by Thomas Carlyle. Chartism is an essay by Thomas Carlyle. Why this Chartism? We have Chartist movement during the period of Victorians. There was a Chartist movement. With that Chartist movement, he observed many things and he wrote an essay, Chartism. So, in this, the condition of England question, the condition of England question is the debate. With this, Thomas Carlyle became popular. With this condition of England question is a debate. With this, Carlyle became very popular in England. So this one you have to remember. So the condition of England question is not a novel poem. This is a debate. Okay. So you remember that. What is the importance of this one? It anticipated the social novels. This debate anticipated the social novels of Charles Dickens, Elizabeth Gaskell, and others of this Victorian era. So this point recently added. So I found somewhere. So please note them down. Next, Thomas Carlyle, actually a Scottish philosopher and a writer, essayist, teacher, and most prominently known as a founder of London Library. Founder of London Library, a lifelong friend of R.W. Emerson. Lifelong friend of R.W. Emerson. Okay, so the connection you remember. Next is important work. We have Sartor Resartus. Sartor Resartus, 1836. Sartor Resartus, 1836. It is a combination of novel and autobiography. It is a combination of novel and autobiography, both. Sartor Resartus means the tailor retailored. The tailor retailored. Its preface was written by his friend R.W. Emerson. R.W. Emerson. Okay, sir. So, first major work, this one, which was published in Fraser's magazine. It was published in Fraser's magazine and very important work by Thomas Carlyle. And the question may be asked here in this work, we have two important chapters. Two important chapters. Those are chapter 7 and chapter 9. Chapter 9 is Everlasting Yeah. Everlasting Yeah. It is there in our, it is missing, sir. Oh, no problem, right. Everlasting Yeah. Y-E-A means faith in God. This is the ninth chapter. And the seventh chapter is Everlasting No. Everlasting No. This is disbelief. Chapter 7. These two chapters are very important in this Satter resortus because it is as we are author work somewhat if the examiner goes inside in depth question, so we may get confusion. So otherwise, that's why. So learn properly. Everlasting yeah and everlasting no are the two important chapters of Sartor Resartus. Very important book. It is a combination of novel and autobiography. Novel and autobiography. Sartor Resartus is novel, autobiography, something like this. Questions may be asked. So please remember, as we are writing different types of competitive examinations, the confusing questions and twisting questions are more. That's why learn properly. Okay. So next, the French Revolution. The French Revolution. So major historical work published in 1837 about the dangers of the French Revolution only. Okay. Next, another important work on heroes worship, on hero worship and the heroic in history. So this is 1841 on heroes, comma, hero worship and the heroic in history. 1841. So this is the biographies of greatest personalities. It is a collection of biographies of great personalities. He quoted, he says, history is nothing but the biography of great men. So, history. What is history? It is nothing but biography of great men. Okay. In this, he stressed the importance of individuals in the history. So, he comprises a few heroes. Those were Cromwell, Napoleon, Shakespeare, Dante, Samuel Johnson, Luther King, Rousseau, Burns, Robert Burns, and so on. Importantly, remember Napoleon, Cromwell, Shakespeare, Dante, Samuel Johnson, Rousseau, Burns, Knox, Luther King. So these are some of the greatest personalities who got place in the collection of Thomas Carlyle, that is on heroes, hero worship, and the heroic in history, 1841. Okay. Next, past and present. Past and present. Present. Past and present. 1843. So it was written as a response to the economic crisis of the 1840s. That is nothing but we already discussed in the historical events of Victorian era, hungry 40s. So, hungry 40s. So, with its closure of factories, loss of jobs, the growth of slums in industrial centers, and the starving people. So it is important work, past and present. Previously asked questioning area, this one. So remember. And Frederick the Great, Frederick the Great, it is not inserted, please note it down. Frederick the Great, 6 volumes book, this one, prose, 6 volumes. So it has infinity, the wittiest book that was written, the infinity, the wittiest book that was written in English, called by R.W. Emerson. The wittiest book this is, so which was mentioned by R.W. Emerson. So this is about Thomas Carlyle. Okay. Next, John Ruskin. John Ruskin is a writer and a critic. So always it is best in writing of women, of women, or for women, of women or for women, of the people, by the people, for the people. We have a statement that like this. It is about democracy, but here John Ruskin always prefers at his best in writing of women or for women. Okay, so in that way, remember. So the pre-Raphaelites were influenced by Ruskin's theories. Okay, the king of the Golden River are the Black Brothers, a legend of Styria, is a fantasy story for the 12 years old Effie, Euphemia Gray, Effie Gray, whom Ruskin later married. The king of the Golden River. Next, we have modern painters. Modern painters, 1843 to 1860, is 5 volume work written in defense of the paintings of Turner, Joseph William Turner. Joseph William Turner. Okay. Hmm. This is modern painters. So he mentioned that Turner is the superior painter of all. So remember that one. Next, 7 lamps of architecture. So extended essay about fundamentals of architecture, later enlarges as the stones of Venice. Stones of Venice. So remember these previously asked bits only. Okay, Stones of Venice, 3 volumes book, is a masterpiece about the fundamentals of architecture. It examines Venetian architecture in detail, describing, for example, over 80 churches. Over 80 churches he described. So next, unto this last, unto this last important book, very, very, very important book. Why it is important? Already you have here. It influenced Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Okay. So its title is taken from the Bible of King James Version. So one point you please note it down. The title of this book, Unto This Last, was taken from the Bible of King James Version. King James wrote the Bible. Okay, many of many proverbs today we are using or taken from them that book only. So will be discussed in the that period. Next, so unto this last, it's a great book. It influenced the non-violent freedom fighter M.K. Gandhi. So this is very, very, very important. Remember it. Okay. Sesame and Lilies. This is also very important book. Sesame and Lilies. It is first published in two edition, two parts only. Later edition, they included a third lecture and a preface. So it is a lectures, collection of lectures, Sesame and Lilies. This is also very important work by John Ruskin. So never ignore this one. Sesame and Lilies, a collection of three essays. Okay, Sesame is taken. Sesame is taken from the cave of robbers in the Arabian Nights. So here it is given that Sesame of King's Treasure criticizes Victorian manhood. Lilies of Queen's Garden urges parents to educate girls. The third one is the mystery of life. The mystery of life. Next, it preface also added in this with this third part. Next, Time and Tide is an essay. Time and Tide is an essay written by John Ruskin. These are the very, very important prose writers. And one more, we have Thomas Bobbington Macaulay. Thomas Bobbington Macaulay. So, very important prose writer of this Victorian era. So, historian. Actually, Thomas Bobbington Macaulay was a historian, essayist, and politician. And politician. So, he was the contributor of Encyclopedia Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica, and his another work is History of England. History of England, major work, and only 5 volumes covered from the accession of James II to George II. Okay, history of England is emphatically the history of progress. History of England is history of progress. The quote by Macaulay. Okay. Next, Lace of Ancient Rome. This is poetry, so not important. But next, critical and historical essays contributed to the Edinburgh Review and is a collection of articles by Macaulay, later became Lord Macaulay. Okay, here this one is very, very important. You remember essay on Milton. Essay on Milton. It is a famous work by Macaulay. Remember it. Essay on Milton, essay on mind, essay on criticism, essays in criticism. So many like this we have. So essay on Milton is a famous work by Macaulay. It appeared in Edinburgh Review. It appeared in Edinburgh Review. It's a famous work. Okay. Next, sixth one is the impeachment of Warren Hastings. Impeachment of Warren Hastings is an essay, and impeachment of Warren Hastings a speech by Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke. So these are the prose writers, particularly they concentrated essays. So historical, they wrote about history. So crisis of economic conditions. They concentrated on that particular area. So these are the prose writers, and we have one more novelists, novelists of Victorian era, novelists of Victorian era. Okay, so novelists, different important area of questions. You may get many questions from Victorian to modern, postmodern, and contemporary. All these many questions will be covered. For that purpose, you concentrate once you revise, read, reread, re-reread, then only uh, you will keep in your mind, you gain your knowledge, will be helpful in your examination. So, in that way, till now, I'll take a 5 minutes session or doubt session or queries. You can ask regarding this uh, prose writers. So, after 5 minutes, we'll go to a novelist. So, any queries or any or doubts regarding sessions or regarding notes or anything, you can freely ask for 5 minutes. Okay? Is it okay? First of all, are you following or any disturbance? You please respond. Are you following the important uh, content that we are dictating or we are shouting? So that much work you have to do at your home, so that it will be very helpful to you. So that is my suggestion. So actually, author work trend is completely, it's uh, fade out. Now, what is going on? Some in-depth questions about themes, characters, and quotations, and publication years, and the importance of uh, the influence of writing, who influenced them, who wrote their preface. This type of questions are frequently being asked. So, in that way, last one in the last 10 years, many changes occurred in your examination pattern. So, slowly, day by day, the increasing the hard questioning area is increasing. Not they are not asking peripherally. They are going in depth. They are testing the knowledge, how much literature, how much idea the particular candidate has in literature. In that way, they are testing. So whether he can teach, or he can research, in that way they are testing. So that's why. So as you are the 1 hour, 1.5 hour or 2 hours here, we are concentrating, but more that much time you have to at least revise what we are giving daily. Otherwise, it will be a loss of time for you. Okay. Next, nobody is responding for doubts. Okay, I am going uh, for major novelists of this Victorian age. Major novelists. In this, particularly, we have Charles Dickens. Very important. At least one or two questions you may get. Important. Charles John Hopham Dickens, 1812 to 1870. Actually, he was the first person to serialize novels. Till then, there was no trend of serialization of novels. So, he was the first person to serialize novels. This is also important point. In the previous Gurukula DL examination, this question was asked. This question was asked, not directly, that serialization of novels only. Question was asked in DL examination, Gurukula. So, first person to serialize novels, his novels are known as Newgate novels. This is also important point. So, why? Because they deal with the adventures of the criminals. They deal with the adventures of the criminals. As a journalist, he edited. First, he started his career as a journalist. He edited the Daily News Journal, and he founded Household Words. It is also another journal, and all the household words and all the year round. Hmm? Next, he was greatly influenced by Thomas Carlyle. Okay, so his life as a poor boy, clerk, lawyer, reporter, manager of newspapers taught him a lot. So he it, used this experience as a lawyer, reporter, poor boy, clerk, manager. So he used this experience in his literary works. So very grassroots level novelist of this Victorian era. So short writings, sketches by Boz is a collection of short pieces originally published in various newspapers and other periodicals. So he adopted Boz as a pseudonym, which is derived from his family name. Humorous writings about London life. Sketches by Boz is about humorous writings of London life. Okay, so novels, the chronological order of Charles Dickens. Chronological order. Chronological order of Charles Dickens. For that purpose, that one you remember this code only. Pono, 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 BLDD, Pono, blood. In that way you remember. Pono blood, Blagot, Blagot. So these are the first letters of the novels taken and prepared a code here. So remember this code. This code gave us 2 marks in jail examination, in the previous TSPSC examination. This PONO helped a lot. So in that way you remember this one. The Pickwick Papers. The Pickwick Papers is a novelist career started with the Pickwick Papers. So 1836 to 37, his first novel, a picaresque novel, came out as a serial sketches with 300 characters. Okay. So in this, you remember this one, Samuel Weller. Sam Weller. Samuel Weller or Sam Weller is a fictional character in it who used established proverbs in certain situations to show them that they are wrong in a funny way. So Wellerism is a name is named after this practice. So he used established proverbs in a funny way. Established proverbs in a funny way. So Sam Weller, that much is enough for you. Okay. Next one is Oliver Twist. Oliver Twist. Its subtitle is The Paris Boys Progress. It is also important. Oliver Twist, The Paris Boys Progress. Okay. 1837. A poor Oliver's suffering uh, in English workhouses is depicted in this novel. It is about the 1834 Act of child labor, and most memorable image of novel is Oliver asking the master for more rice. Fagin is an evil character in it. So in this, this is uh, a pathetic novel. pathetic condition of Oliver Twist. So the more pathetic situation in this novel is Oliver asking the master for more rice, more food. So in this we have a character Fagin. This is the evil character, antagonist, we can say. So Nickleby, Nicholas Nickleby. It is about the abuses of charity schools. This novel is about the abuses of charity schools, sufferings of students in Yorkshire schools, and brutal schoolmasters are depicted in this novel. So Nicholas Nickleby, so important. You just novel and its situation and its theme and it is what is the novel about. That much is enough for you. And important character uh, in these notes mentioned, you remember that much. That is enough. Next, old curiosity shop. It is about 13-year girl, 13-year-old girl, Nell Trent. Nell Trent. So, and his her grandfather in an antique gift shop. Death of Nell at the climax is sentimental. Quilp is a vicious, ill-tempered, and grotesque dwarf and is the villain of the story. Quilp is the villain of the story. Nell Trent is the protagonist of the story. Okay, so no completed. Pickwick Papers, Oliver Twist, Nicholas Nickleby, Old Curiosity Shop. No, four novels completed. In that way, you remember. Next, Barnaby Rudge, historical novel based on anti-Catholic protests against Popish Act 1778. Okay. Next, Life and Adventures of Martin Chuzzlewit about reactions to America. About so it is about uh, reactions to America. He wrote this novel when he was in America, when Dickens was in America. Okay. Next, Dombey and Son. Dombey and Son. One question was asked previously: which of the following novels was written when Charles Dickens was in America? This previous question. So in that way, you remember. So when he was in America, he wrote this novel, Life and Adventures of Martin Chuzzlewit, 1843-44, about his reactions to America. Next, seventh novel is Dombey and Son, story of Paul Dombey, head of a shipping company, and his desire to have a son. Dombey and Son. Okay. David Copperfield. David Copperfield. BLDD. So David Copperfield. It is his masterpiece actually, and the history of his own life, mostly autobiographical. Deepika Srivastava, a critic, a famous critic of India, once said that the pen that wrote David Copperfield was often dipped in his own blood. That much tragedy is there, that much pathetic conditions are there in this novel, David Copperfield. The novel is set in early Victorian England against the backdrop of a social change. Story of David Copperfield, growth from young age to maturity. Young age to maturity. Authors engage to maturity, autobiography novel, if it is, so then that kind of novel is known as Bildungsroman. Bildungsroman is author's growth, young age to maturity. So David Copperfield is a Bildungsroman novel. Okay, remember this. What is Bildungsroman? The author, mostly author's growth. What is the story of this David Copperfield? It is about author's growth from young age to maturity. So that we can call it as Bildungsroman. Okay, Bildungsroman. So opening line, its opening line is, whether I shall turn out to nay the hero of my own life, or whether that station will be held by anybody else. These passages must show. Okay, so he was born 6 months after the death of his father and raised by his mother Clara and his nurse Peggotty, who gave him a happy childhood. Clara married. So this is a short uh, summary is given. So you read this short summary, that will be helpful for you. Okay. Next, BLDD completed. BLDD. Okay. Barnaby Rudge, Life and Adventures of Martin Chuzzlewit, Dombey and Son, David Copperfield. Okay. Next, short summary of David Copperfield also is given. You read it. Bleak House, Dickens' only novel with female character, female narrator, sorry, female narrator. The remaining novels are completely male narrators only, but it is female narrated, female narrated novel. It is a critic of the law of courts based on the case of Jarndyce and Jarndyce. Story of Esther Summerson, illegitimate daughter of Lady Dedlock and Captain Ho- Horden. So, Nemo, nobody in Latin, who raised at Bleak House, believed to be dead, met her mother, Lady Dedlock, at the end. So, these are the short summaries given. So, you go through them, will be uh, remembered. Bleak House, the important novel only, Bleak House. So, next, Hard Times. Its subtitle is For These Times. So, industrial novel, shortest novel by Dickinson. Dickens, sorry. It is a critique of science and industry written in three parts: sowing, reaping, and gathering. So, this point is very important. So, the novel written in three parts, those parts are sowing, reaping, and gathering. Okay. So, novel is about the Industrial Revolution set in Coke Town and describes the story of Thomas Gradgrind. Gradgrind. and his daughter Lucia, who married Josiah Bounderby. Okay, and his son Tom. Okay. Hmm. Next, Little Dorrit. Little Dorrit, story of Amy Dorrit, born and raised in the Marshallia prison for debtors in London. It is about Marshallia prison for debtors in London. Little Dorrit, that much is enough. A tale of two cities. A tale of two cities set in London and Paris. It is a historical novel based on Carlyle's The French Revolution. It is based on the French Revolution, which was written by Thomas Carlyle. Just now we discussed. So, written in three parts, recalled to life the golden thread, the track of storm. Recalled to life the golden thread, the track of storm. These are the three parts of this novel, A Tale of Two Cities. So, the two cities, what are the two cities? Once a question was asked. A Tale of Two Cities is a novel by Charles Dickens. So, what are the two cities in this novel? Once question was asked in that way. So, here, Paris and London. Paris and London are the two cities of this novel. Next, Sydney Carter. Sydney Carter, Carton. Sydney Carton is the uh, important character in this. Okay, so some short summary is given. Next, the Great Expectations. The Great Expectations, 1861, building a Roman story only of Philip Pirrip. Philip Pirrip, who was also known as Pip. Once net question this is. What is the full name of Pip? What is the full name of Pip? Once net question only this one. So Philip Pirrip. Philip Pirrip. So remember this. So he suddenly raises from labor to a city gentleman. Okay. Uh, some short summary is given. That much is enough for you. Our mutual friend. So last novel completed by Charles Dickens and is one of his most sophisticated works, combining savage satire with social analysis. So our mutual friend 14th novel. Okay. Chronologically arranged these novels are. So, so you remember the code and names of these novels. That much is enough. You will get one or two marks. One or two questions are asked, and you will definitely answer if you keep them in your mind. Next, the mystery of Edwin Drood, incomplete novel, and a Christmas Carol novella, story of Ebenezer Scrooge, an elderly miser who is visited by the ghost of his former business partner Jacob Marley, and the scripts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. After their visits, Scrooge is transformed into a kinder, gentle man. Okay, so this is, here in this box item we have. So once go through this one, E.M. Foster in his 1927 aspects of the novel applied the term flat and round characters to describe fictional characters. Flat characters so serves only one purpose in the story. For example, Miss Havisham from Charles Dickens' novels Great Expectations is a flat character who seeks only revenge for being abandoned on her wedding day. Mrs. Micawber in David Copperfield. So these are flat characters and aspects of the novel. So important work by E.M. Foster. So remember this. So he classified the characters of novel into two types. Those are flat characters and round characters. Flat characters serves only one purpose in the story. Examples Miss Havisham and Mrs. Micawber. And round characters, those true to life, he considered to be round. So complex characters, multifaceted characters. So E.M. Foster says Dickens' characters are flat, but not flat, but round. So this statement, quotation statement, you remember, okay? So E.M. Foster's characters are flat but round, okay? So this box item is important only. Next, important points are there. So you please note down innocent little child characters we have in the novels of Dickens, Oliver and Little Joe, Paul, Tiny Tom, and Little Nell. These are the innocent characters. Innocent characters. Next, horrible, grotesque characters we have Quilip, Culip, Uriah Heep, Bill Siglas, Bill Siglas, and tenderly, powerfully drawn characters, tenderly, powerfully drawn characters, Lady Dedlock, Sydney Carton. Lady Dedlock, Sydney characters. These are the some of the types of characters which are uh, described, which took place in the novels of Charles Dickens. Okay, so mostly you remember Pono, blood, BHLA got, GOT got. So this code you remember. So chronological order of Charles Dickens novels. Okay. Next, Another important, another important author, novelist, major novelist of this Victorian era, William Makepeace Thackeray. William Makepeace Thackeray, first colonial writer born in India. He was born in Calcutta. He was born in Calcutta and first major novelist born in the colonies of British. We already discussed that colonization started in which Victorian era. Can anybody? Colonization. We have three divisions or three parts of Victorian era. Early Victorian era. Hmm? Remaining, please respond. Dear participants, it is like one way method. If you answer this, in which period colonization started? Colonization started. Someone reacted. Thank you. Thank you, Shiva sir. Not sir, modern Victorian. Victorian era, not modern Victorian. So, anybody, please respond. Please respond. Please respond. In which Victorian era colonization started? So, these are the important basic questions you have to be updated. You have to remember post Victorian era. Post post Victorian era. Okay, okay. Post Victorian era. Do we have post Victorian era? Hmm? We have early Victorian era and middle Victorian era, late Victorian era. So during the period of middle Victorian era, colonization started. Colonization started. So once or twice you just grab, uh, get the answers from previous topics what we discussed. Once you turn pages, hmm, slowly we are moving one side only. It is like so. The colonial major novelist who was born in the colonies of British. So William Makepeace Thackeray was born in Calcutta. His pen name is Arthur Pendennis. Arthur Pendennis. So very important major novelist and Vanity Fair. Important novel. Best work this is. It is considered as the novel without hero. Previous question. The novel without hero. The subtitle. The novel without hero. It was first published as a 19-volume monthly serial. The last containing parts 19 and 20 from 1847 to 1848, carrying the subtitle Pen and Pencil Sketches of English Society. So it's a subtitle in the beginning, Pen and Pencil Sketches of English Society. So This Vanity Fair title is from taken from John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. Pilgrim's Progress. Okay, this is very very important. Vanity Fair, the novel without hero, pen and pencil sketches of English society, and the title Vanity Fair is taken from John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. Very very important. Very very important. Remember it. It deals with the adventures of Becky Sharp, strongly willed young woman, amoral and unprincipled, initially poor but becomes rich, and Amelia Sedley, an ideal creature, milk and water type, initially rich but becomes poor. Famous line, Hey, vanitas, vanitatum, which of us is happy in this world? Which of us has his desire or having it is satisfied? Come, children, let us shut up the box and puppets, for our play is played out. So, this is the famous line taken from the Vanity Fair. So, Vanity Fair is important only. You remember this. Questions may be asked. Next, history of Pendennis. History of Pendennis, 1848, partly autobiographical, growth of hero from childhood to adulthood. Okay. Next, history of Henry Esmond. Henry Esmond. So very important this one. Uh, history of Henry Esmond, historical novel. Story of Colonel Esmond in Queen Anne's reign, Queen Anne's period. So George Eliot labeled it as the most unforgettable, uncomfortable book you can imagine. Uncomfortable book you can imagine. The hero is in love with the daughter all through the book and marries the mother at the end. So this is a controversial statement about this Henry Esmond novel, which was remarked by George Eliot. So as it is controversial, you remember it. You may get question. The Virginian sequel to Henry Esmond. This is important. The Virginians is important. Sequel to History of Henry Esmond. Okay. His essays are the English humorist 18th, the English humorist of 18th century, the Four Georges, the Four Georges. These two are his essays. Remaining are novels. Okay, okay, histories, historical novels and essays. That much. Anthony Trollope, novelist called as Reflection of Thackeray. Reflection of Thackeray. So his novels are called as Barsetshire novels, series of 6 novels set is set in West Country area. Next, Palliser novels, series of 6 novels known as parliamentary novels, politically contextualized. So Anthony Trollope, that Barsetshire novels you remember, Palliser novels were you remember, 6 novels, 6 novels each. Okay, this Mary Anne Evans, Mary Ann Evans, Mary Ann Evans, George Eliot. Pen name is George Eliot. She explores psychological and moral issues in her novels. Her novels are largely set in Warwickshire. Remember this point. Remember, always don't remember novels only. Sometimes the setting of the novels also very important. So you remember George Eliot. George Eliot. So she used a male pen name. So Autumn Biddy, 1859, a village love story. Subtitle: First novel set in rural Loamshire, a rectangular love. It is a rectangular love. We have triangle loves almost in our movies, but this is a rectangular love. Okay, among the beautiful but self-absorbed Hetty Sorrel, Captain Arthur Doniton, the young squire who seduces her, Adam Beatty, her acknowledged suitor, and Dinah Morris, Hetty's cousin, a fervent, virtuous, and beautiful Methodist lay preacher. Eliot took the plot from the real story of a woman who killed her child. Who killed her child? Same, same with this theme only. We have beloved novel. Okay, so mother killed her own child. We'll get in the contemporary uh, literature. So Adam was inspired by Eliot's own father, Dinah Morris from her aunt, and uh, Mrs. Poyser from her mother. Okay, she described this novel as a country story full of the breath of cows and scent of hay. This statement is very important. This statement is very important. Next, Mill on the Floor, partly autobiographical novel, deals the lives of Tom and Maggie Tulliver. Tom Tulliver and Maggie Tulliver, two characters, siblings, and closing of the novel is in their death, they are not divided. Okay, Tom's character is based on her real brother Isaac. Okay, next, this one is important. Previously asked, Silas Marner. Silas Marner, the weaver of Ravelo. Okay, next one is Silas Marner, weaver. So the hero Silas is a humble weaver. Next, Romola, historical novel, historical novel set in Florence, Italy during 1840s. This is not 1940s Renaissance. Okay. Next, this Romola is a somewhat unsuccessful novel. So Felix Hall, its subtitle is important. The Radical, social and political novel set in Terby Magna town narrates the story of Harold Transome campaigns for the seat in Parliament, and Felix Holt steers the new electorate, and Esther's dilemma whether to choose the wealthy Transome as a husband or the impoverished but honest Felix Holt. So there is a dilemma of a marriage, to whom to marry. So that is the theme of this novel. Uh, Felix Holt. Next, Middlemarch. This is also, its a subtitle is important. A study of provincial life. Middlemarch, a study of provincial life, very important. Next, it is an epic novel. Dorothea Brooke is the heroine in this novel. So it's a subtitle you remember. Okay. Next, Daniel Deronda. So controversial fight for a Jewish nation is the keynote of this book. And here you remember this. This is very, very important work by George Eliot. Silly novels by lady novelists. She attacked. This is a criticism of. This is the criticism of George Eliot. George Eliot's criticism. This is so very important. You remember silly novels by lady novelists. She attacked the kinds of novels women are expected to write, and women authors started rejecting the major heroines such as Pamela, Clarissa, Maud Flanders, etc., who were created by men. All these were created by men only. Eliot closes her essay claiming that women are equal to men in the ability to write fiction. She advised women writers, not to publish novels of poor quality to flatter themselves. Okay, this is the criticism. You remember this George Eliot's criticism. The Spanish Gypsy, a dramatic poem. So, do you know why Mary Anne Evans used a male pseudonym? In 19th century, famous female authors started using male pseudonyms in order to avoid attention to the fact that they are women and to challenge conventions. So Mary wanted to raise above the silly novel syndrome and to differentiate her own work from that of her peers, both in terms of genre and gender. So she published her first novel, Adam BD, under the name Eliot. Okay, so these are the major novelists of this Victorian era. Major novelists of Victorian era. Okay, so till now it is okay. Will be continued tomorrow. So I think it is hectic So kindly so any doubts regarding this one, you can ask. Keshav Reddy sir, hello. So this is about Victorian period major novelists. Some are most of the questions may cover from fiction and from prose. So today's session authors are very important. So concentrate, please. Once revise them so that after revising this, you try to solve previous question papers. You may find some questions of this Victorian age. If you find any kind of a strange questions, you can ask me or you can ask here. We will discuss that. Okay. So literature is an ocean. So this is not a complete study of the literature. Whatever you learn, we can learn in deep uh, study. So that's why it's better. So you revise, read. Then only uh, will be helpful for you. So remaining few more authors, few more novelists we have, minor novelists. So mostly tomorrow we'll close this one and we'll take some question and answers session. Okay. Keshav Reddy sir, are you there?